We stand here this morning on Ghana land. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the country on which we gather and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Each year on the 25th of April, Australians and New Zealanders pause to reflect. We come together to remember all those who have served in times of war, conflict and peacekeeping. This date marks the anniversary of the landing of Australian and New Zealand troops on the shores of Gallipoli in 1915 during the First World War. The Gallipoli Campaign was part of a wider effort led by British and French forces. Their goal was to capture the Turkish capital, Constantinople, by securing a path through the Dardanelles Strait. But the landing itself was met with fierce resistance. At Gallipoli, the Australians were the first to arrive before dawn, followed later that day by the New Zealanders. The terrain was steep, the conditions harsh, and the enemy well prepared. What followed was a campaign marked by hardship and courage. In just the first day, about 2,000 Australians were killed or wounded. The battlefront barely moved for 8 months. When the ANZACs were finally evacuated in December 1915, more than 8,700 Australians and 2,700 New Zealanders had lost their lives. In total, around 130,000 soldiers from all sides perished on that small peninsula. One soldier would later describe it as a day of sorrow. The word Anzac comes from the initials of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. But over time, it has come to mean so much more. It represents a spirit, one of endurance, courage, mateship, and sacrifice. These qualities, shown by the soldiers of Gallipoli, have been held up as defining characteristics of Australians and New Zealanders ever since. Originally, Anzac Day was a day to remember those who fought at Gallipoli. But as history unfolded with the Second World War, the Korean War, Vietnam, Afghanistan, peacekeeping operations, and more, it has grown into a day that honors all who have served and all who continue to serve in Australia's defence forces. Anzac Day is marked in many ways. Some attend dawn services or marches. Others wear rosemary, a plant that grew wild on the slopes of Gallipoli and has become a symbol of remembrance. Today, by standing together in reflection, we too honor the memory of those who served. Soon, we will hear the last post. This bugle call was once used in military camps to mark the end of the day. Today, it is played in memory of those who have completed their duty and are now at rest. After the last post, there will be 1 minute of silence. This moment is sacred. It is a time to reflect not only on the past, but on the peace we strive to protect today. Let us remember the more than 100,000 Australians who have lost their lives in service to our country. Let us honor their legacy by living with the values they embodied: courage, compassion, and resilience. Lest we forget.
On this day, above all days, we recall those who did not return with us to receive the welcome of their nations, those who still sleep where we left them, amid the holly scrub in the valleys and on the ridges of Gallipoli, on the rocky terraced hills of Palestine, in the lovely cemeteries of France, in the shimmering haze of the Libyan desert, of Bardia, Derna, Tobruk, amid the mountain passes and olive groves of Greece and Crete, the rugged snow-capped hills of Syria, the rich jungle of Malaya, New Guinea, and the Pacific Islands, amid loving friends in our mother country and in our own far north, and in many an unknown resting place in almost every land and every sea. We think of those of our women's services who gave their lives in our own and foreign lands, and particularly of those who proved, in so much more than name, the sisters of our fighting men. We recall also those staunch friends who fought beside us on the first Anzac Day, our brothers from New Zealand who helped to create that name, the men of the Royal Navy and of the 29th and other British divisions, the Indian mountain gunners, and our brave French allies. We recall all those who have since fallen, fighting shoulder to shoulder with us in both world wars, who gave their lives in the 8th Army, the Royal Navy, the Royal Air Force, and all the British and Dominion forces and Merchant Navy, and the ranks of the American allies who came at our call. We think of those British men, women, and children who fell when, for the second time in history, their nation and its kindred stood alone against the overwhelming might of an oppressor until the world rallied and hurled him back. We think of the peace-loving millions in prostrated Europe, in defiant Greece, Russia, and China, and elsewhere, to whom, through these united efforts and their own invincible spirit, deliverance ultimately came. We think of our loyal friends among the peoples of New Guinea and other lands. We think of every man, woman, and child who in those crucial years died so that the lights of freedom and humanity might continue to shine. May they rest proudly in the knowledge of their achievement, and may we and our successors in that heritage prove worthy of their sacrifice.
On this day, above all days, we recall those who served in war and who did not return to receive the grateful thanks of the nation. We remember those who still sleep where they were left, amid the holly scrub in the valleys and on the ridges of Gallipoli, on the rocky and terraced hills of Palestine, in European fields and in the cemeteries of France, Belgium, and the United Kingdom. We remember those who lie asleep in ground beneath the Libyan desert, in North Africa, the mountain passes and olive groves of Greece and Crete, and the hills of Lebanon and Syria. We remember those who lie buried in the jungles of Malaya and Burma, in New Guinea, and in the islands of the Pacific and in our own far north. We remember those who lie in unknown resting places in almost every land, and those gallant men and women whose grave is the unending sea. Especially do we remember those who died as prisoners of war remote from their homeland and from the comforting presence of their kith and kin. We think of those of our women's services who gave their lives in our own and foreign lands and at sea, and of those who proved to be, in much more than name, the sisters of our fighting men. We recall, too, the staunch friends who fought beside our men on the first Anzac Day, men of New Zealand who helped create the name of Anzac, and those who served the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and other allied forces. We think of those gallant Australians who died in Korea, Malaya, Borneo, Vietnam, Iraq and Afghanistan, and in peacekeeping and peace enforcement commitments, assisting to defend the Commonwealth and other countries of the free world against common enemies. We think of every man and woman who in those crucial times died so that the lights of freedom and humanity might continue to shine. We remember those defense and civil personnel who lost their lives during peacetime service and whilst on humanitarian missions. May these all rest proudly in the knowledge of their achievements, and may we and our successors in that heritage prove worthy of their sacrifice. For the Fallen, by Lawrence Bin Young, 1914. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children. England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit. Fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn the drum's thrill, death august and royal. Sing sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle, they were young. Straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known, as the stars are known to the night, as the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end they remain. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget. Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and